What up, what up? Salvador Brigman here. Welcome back to the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast. On this podcast, we talk about everything crowdfunding. And to me, this is a gold mine, man. You should be looking at this as like every single day, you're sifting through these nuggets of gold. You're sifting through the sand to discover those pearly gems because they are dropped literally every single episode of this podcast. You can go back in the archives. You can see people who are just like you, who didn't start out with a big following, who maybe didn't have that much capital to invest in their campaign, able to raise 6 and 7 figures using crowdfunding, using instruments like Kickstarter, Indiegogo, using platforms even like GoFundMe, and also the newer flavor, the newer kid on the block, using equity crowdfunding. And that's actually what today's episode is going to be about. So equity crowdfunding is a whole new thing, right? And not a lot of people know about it. I don't think it's really blown up at all. And I really view it as my duty to share this with you. And here's why. Let me just wind back the clock. Let's just say the first time that people were allowed to invest in startup companies when the actual stock market began. If you didn't know about the stock market and you're an entrepreneur now just discovering it, it's like, wow, I can actually raise money from people all over the United States, and I can put all of this money into a startup, into capital to grow and expand my business. It's like an unparalleled, never before opportunity. And that was the case, right? When the stock market, when the secondary market was originally created, also obviously doing like IPOs and that kind of stuff. Nowadays, something new is happening, and it's pretty much in the same vein. And that's what regulation crowdfunding is. That's what equity crowdfunding is. That's what we are covering on today's episode, because today's guest, believe it or not, was able to raise $3.5 million using WeFunder from more than 4,400 investors. Okay, so I love Kickstarter, man. I love Indiegogo. I love e-commerce. These are all massive passions of mine. However, the big difference here is that these people are becoming investors in your startup, in your company. They're not just buying a product, they're also becoming evangelists for your brand. They're investing in you. They're participating in upside, unless it depends on the type of flavor of the offering, the deal that you're doing, which kind of goes beyond, I think, today's episode. But on today's episode, you're gonna hear a ton of killer advice and tips as to how to actually pull off one of these equity crowdfunding campaigns. You're gonna hear directly from the source and how this entrepreneur behind Drone Deck was able to raise a multi-million-dollar WeFunder campaign raise, which is insane. And I'm sure you've had this idea before. Obviously, drone deliveries, which is super cool, and a new way to do it. I'm sure you've had that idea before. How many of those ideas are you not taking action on? How many of those ideas could get investment capital if you just were able to phrase it in the right way, if you were able to package it and frame it in the right way? And that's what I want to show you how to do, man. That's what I want to show you how to do. And it's not even me. I just think that you owe it to yourself. Let's be honest here. The number one thing that's holding you back, what is that? We all say it's resources, right? We all say it's having the right capital, having enough funds to be able to get this idea out of my head and into reality. Well, guess what? There are so many options nowadays to be able to do that. It goes beyond Kickstarter and Indiegogo, my friend. It goes beyond GoFundMe. Now we're talking about equity crowdfunding, where you can raise money from investors around the world. Listen to that, around the world. You can access them, and you only need to be a US-based corporation at the time I'm recording this podcast. So if you want to discover some of the secrets behind that $3.5 million raise, you definitely want to listen until the end of today's podcast and really stop and examine that. The things that have been holding you back your whole life, I'm introducing to you tools, techniques, and ways to get past those, but it's up to you to take action. So if you still don't yet feel comfortable, right, and you still want to learn a little bit more, and you want to really get your ducks in a row, got a great resource for you that's a great introduction into equity crowdfunding. So I'm going to share 2 resources, 2 links with you right now, and then we're going to get straight into today's episode. The first resource is a free course that I put together for you on equity crowdfunding. You can go to crowdcrux.com/equity. That is crowdcrux.com/equity. crowdcrux.com/equity. The second link is more for you that if you want to, you're a little bit more nerdy like myself and you love to read up on things. I got a great audiobook for you that is called Equity Crowdfunding Explained. Okay. And you can check out this audiobook. It's awesome. It's killer. You can go to the link crowdcrux.com/equity audio. That is crowdcrux.com/equity audio, crowdcrux.com/equity audio. Without further ado, let's get right into how this entrepreneur is able to attract more than 4,000 investors and also raise over $3.5 million on WeFunder. It's coming up right after this. If you're worried about the fulfillment and shipping part of your Kickstarter campaign when it comes to getting out all those perks and rewards to your backers, rest assured I've put together a complete Kickstarter fulfillment and shipping checklist for you, and it's free. This is sponsored by the folks at Fulfillrite, and they thought that you should have this checklist as part of your arsenal going into a crowdfunding campaign. If you want to get instant access to this checklist and it's free, you can go to fulfillrite.com/checklist. Again, that is fulfillrite.com/checklist. Fulfillrite.com/checklist. Just go to that link and you can download it immediately. Hey guys, welcome back to the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast. Today we have a mega success on the show when it comes to WeFunder. So for this campaign, they've already attracted more than 3,000, nearly 4,000 investors, over 3 million raised, hit a ton of their goals, and they also have a really interesting product, super innovative. Privileged to be speaking with Dan today from the project. Dan has had a really incredible career. He's here and he's going to tell you a little bit about the campaign. Dan, welcome to the show.
Hey, Salvador. Thanks for having me, man. Really appreciate it.
Definitely. Do you think you could just kind of fill in the gaps there to let the listeners know a bit about what you're doing here on WeFunder, a little bit of your background as well?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, 57 years old, so I've been around the block a few times. I guess you'd call me a serial entrepreneur. I've always had a lot of ideas, and I love to execute on those ideas. I've had three exits out of companies that I founded. And the biggest thing by far that I've done is Drone Deck, and that's the company I'm involved with right now. Back in 2014, when drone delivery was just a sparkle in the eye of Jeff Bezos, people started iterating around the idea, and I was one of them. And while everybody was focused on the drone aspect of it, I jumped ahead to the next generation mailbox, and that's what I call Drone Deck, the mailbox for autonomous delivery. So what we're doing is we're consolidating all delivery to one point, and that will include autonomous unmanned driverless vehicles, robotic delivery, aerial drone delivery, and conventional delivery. So that's what we're doing. We're raising on WeFunder right now, as you mentioned, and we're really excited about the market acceptance and traction that we've achieved.
So you've done, like you said, it's a few different companies here, had 3 exits. How does WeFunder compare to the different ways you have raised capital in the past?
Well, I love the aspect of going to the crowd to raise. I always say there's 3 reasons that we crowdfunded. One is you get a big megaphone and you get to publicize your raise, which under any of the other SEC exemptions you really can't do. So that's a big get right there. Second one is you get to build a huge fan base of a community of mutual love, I call it. I mean, the interaction that we've had with our investor base is just huge. A lot of passion, enthusiasm. You just can't get that anywhere else. And then the third thing, which is really important also, is as you mentioned earlier, we've got 4,000 investors. If you're going to bring 4,000 investors onto your cap table, that's very cluttered, right? But with crowdfunding, you're allowed to bring all those investors in under one line item on your cap table. It might be a little sophisticated to be discussing this, but as you go down the road in raising capital for your company, more sophisticated, VC funds, private equity, they don't want to see a lot of clutter on your cap table. So that's a huge get to be able to consolidate all those 4,000 investors on one line item. So those are 3 really compelling reasons to go the crowdfunding route, and I would really recommend it to anybody. It's really the new way of raising capital for a company. You're not beholden to some VC that's going to come in and dictate terms, beat you down to nothing, and not allow you to have the value that you really need to grow your company and to have your equity be your capital of development.
So in terms of this campaign, I know you guys have a certain type of offering that you're doing. You could tell listeners just a tiny bit about what they're really going to get in terms of investing here and considering that, and then we can talk a bit about the opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. Everyone that invests through WeFunder into Drone Deck Corporation, you're actually getting equity shares in the company. All of our shares are the same, common shares with voting rights. We wanted to be very inclusive. Everyone has the same shares that I do as the founder and CEO. We didn't want to show any preference to one investing facet over another, so we chose to do it that route. And we're really happy about that. We're all in this together. I always say that Drone Deck is a we the people story. We beat Amazon to our patent by 9 days. We beat the Postal Service to our patent by 2 weeks. And so it's really kind of a David and Goliath. And, we're out there iterating in the same space with the trillion-dollar market cap companies, Amazon, Google, and others. And so I'm really excited about our place. We are the funnel to last mile logistics. I always say that while the drones are commodities and they're going to be flying here, there, and everywhere, every delivery is going to terminate in one little piece of real estate, and that's what I call Drone Deck. That's us. So that's what we're doing. That's a value proposition, Salvador, and we're excited to bring that to everyday retail investors right now on WeFunder.
I think the idea is killer. Like, obviously, super cutting edge, innovative, next generation. I think a lot of people in the audience might be concerned about just the scope of the idea, right? Why do you think that you guys are super prepared as the team to pull this off?
We think big. When I had this idea back in 2014, people thought I was crazy. And I've kind of come to the realization that if people don't think you're crazy when you come up with a cutting edge idea, you're too late. So I celebrate that. And I think that we do have the team. We've got huge corporate experience, entrepreneurial. Virtually every facet of professional, business is represented on the Drone Deck board and our advisory board. World-class team. We're executing every day. I think we've taken the lead as the preeminent branded leader in this space, and that's just not our feelings. That's been validated by large companies that we talk to and municipalities every day. We've got great traction, great acceptance in the marketplace, and we have a vision, frankly, that we're executing on that nobody else has really thought of. And it's as much a big thing to have the technology, but to also have a strategy for rolling that out and get into the marketplace is probably even more important. And I think we've got a great combination of all those factors.
For you, on the CEO angle, on the leadership angle, what is something that you've learned in your time running these other companies that you're applying to Drone Deck? What's something that's really stayed with you that's allowed you to collect all of these really impressive people to be on your board or to be a part of the project?
Number one is being genuine. Two of our core principles are being transparent and communicative. And a lot of that has been forged in me because when I'm on the other side of being the CEO, I'm a customer or somebody that wants to reach out to maybe like a Jeff Bezos or something. And we all know that's not really possible. So I've tried to put myself in the role, potential investors, vendors, customers, and we're highly approachable. And we want to be that. We know that when somebody wants to get in touch with you for something, if they're not able to, they're going to hang up and call the next guy. And we don't want to lose any of those opportunities. So integrity, just being genuine. If we're asking you shareholder to invest their hard-earned money in us and they have a question or a comment, I always say we darn sure ought to be on the other end of that phone to be able to receive that. We're not looking to ghost anybody. Another thing is, I always say, the only time we say no is when it's followed by the word problem, no problem. We tackle everything proactively, head on. The problems are out there. They're not here inside our company. We need to have a solution, not a problem. And so we just tackle everything with the mindset and the paradigm that there's a solution for everything. And how are we going to get to that? And how's that going to look? And how can we just keep always raising the bar on what we're delivering? And I think that's very evident in the capital raise that we've had, all the interaction that's publicly in the iteration of our product, how we just don't settle. We've got 2 fully issued utility patents. We have 4 more patents going through for examination right now, internationally and domestically. It's a total of 111 claims that we've either filed for or have been awarded. We're not just a one-trick pony. We're a very robust platform that is going to fundamentally change the way that people ship and receive items, order food, beverage, pharmaceuticals. There's so many facets to what we're doing. I liken it to the iPhone. Everybody thought, how are we ever going to use that or whatever? But once it rolled out, it became a fabric of our culture. And I really see Drone Deck doing the same thing.
Who would you say is the most meaningful leader in your life that you've witnessed or that you've worked with or that you've had the privilege to follow? Who would you say the most meaningful person is there?
I really have to say, and it sounds cliched, but I have to say my family, my mom and dad, my dad's 93, my mom's 86. They've been great beacons of integrity, just doing the right thing, being aggressive, ambitious, motivated, life skills that you really need to survive, I was able to get from my parents. My mom comes out of corporate and private business ownership. She's actually involved in my business on a day-to-day basis. And, I'm not ashamed to say that sometimes I'll go to my mom or dad for a question or an answer. It's always easy to say Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos, right? I do have to say Warren Buffett, honestly, has been a beacon since I was a kid. I always was drawn to Berkshire Hathaway. I remember telling my dad to buy 10 shares of Berkshire when it was $900 a share. Could have bought it at 9,000 for $9,000 and I had 10 shares. And today I think it's trading at like 495,000 a share. So, those are the kind of people and icons that I look up to in my life, and I'm hoping that I can be that beacon and that example for a lot of other people that follow me.
For sure. I mean, I think the other thing is as you get later stage in your career, a lot of people think more about like retirement or taking it easy. What it sounds like now, this is one of the biggest things that you've been able to sink your teeth into, and now you're just growing this thing phenomenally, right? So, why do you think that's the case? Why is it that there's that hunger within you?
I can't speak to that. I'm blessed to have that. I always say that I'll sleep when I die. I can tell you, as I said earlier, I'm 57. I've never worked harder in my life, but I've never had more fun. I'm a guy that will work till the day I die. I don't have any, I get really bored very quickly when I'm not engaged. So I don't see myself ever retiring on a beach or anything like that. I love being active in a vision and executing on that. And there's a lot of creativity on our team. We're always coming up with great new ideas. And as this thing just unfolds in front of us, it's so exciting. And then looking in the rearview mirror, the amount of work that we've done and how we've executed perfectly to get to this point is just so validating for our mission.
Definitely, definitely. When did you guys actually first launch the campaign on WeFunder?
We launched in November, back when Reg CF allowed a $1,070,000 cap and intro raise. The rules changed where you could go to 5 million. Of course, we don't have the time horizon that we would have liked to have had since we were already intro raised to get to 5 million. But we are crossing 3 million. We've crossed 3 million. Our campaign is set to end in the next 2 days. So we're on a great trajectory. I've heard that we've already been the highest pre-revenue valuation company to ever successfully crowdfund since the inception of crowdfunding. So I think that puts us in a very elite group, and I think it bodes well for the future of Drone Deck and how we might stack up against some of the largest companies in the world. We definitely have the market opportunity, the total addressable market of what we're doing could definitely deliver on that promise, and that's what we're looking to execute on.
Walk me through that day before you really launched the campaign. What was kind of going through your head?
Sheer optimism. Had never done a crowdfunding platform before. Didn't really know what to expect. You hope for, you expect the worst, hope for the best kind of thing, right? I mean, do we put a viewing party together with the team to watch the numbers come in? You don't know what to expect. And these are all things that went through our head. Are we going to get 100 calls? Are there going to be detractors out there that we're going to have to, the whole scheme of it? Part of running a business successfully is accounting for every issue that can come up. And I don't think anybody can actually do that 100%. But we did try to brainstorm all those things that could happen, that might happen, that would happen, and then figure out the best way to deliver and to navigate through that. I think we've done a great job, and it's been a great ride, I got to say.
What did it feel like when you first started to get investors kind of piling into this campaign?
I think there was a TV commercial one time a few years back where somebody went live on the internet and they flipped a switch and it started off, and all of a sudden they're getting all these orders and they were kind of freaking out. And, it's kind of similar to that, really, because, every dollar that comes in is really a validation of your dream and your mission. And to have outside investors buying into your dream is probably the most humbling experience you can have. So, yeah, I would just say, we value every dollar the same as $1,000,000. I mean, every dollar counts, and people are putting their hard-earned money into what we're doing. And there's a lot of trust there and a lot of accountability on our side that we take so seriously. And I would just say that having the experience to carry the flag and the banner for all of our investors and to deliver on the promise of what we're doing is the most humbling, gratifying thing that anyone can experience.
If there's anything you could tell yourself before you went live, would you have given yourself any advice or anything you would have imparted about this whole process?
You never know where you're going, essentially. And what I mean by that is the minute you think you know something, you find out you really don't. And so we were as prepared as we could be, and we started down the path. We adjusted midstream. And I think at the end of the day, crowdfunding will look at the Drone Deck campaign and see that we've kind of rewritten the book on how crowdfunding happens. And I mean that in a lot of ways. We did some great pricing things where we offered kind of a retroactive early bird to our initial investors, giving them an ROI intra campaign. We have been very communicative, very transparent, the good, bad, the ugly, great interaction. I personally respond every day to every email myself, put my phone number out there to the world. I take calls from all over the world every day. And just being here is and being genuine, I think, is the biggest part of it. As we conclude our campaign right now, we've just announced a 2-for-1 stock split and a raise in valuation that'll take place on September 15th. So we're giving our dear shareholders an opportunity. They're already going to be participating in that if they do nothing further. But if they do invest and take a greater advantage of that, we're laying out the opportunity to do that as well. And things like that have really defined what we've done, and I think have really contributed to the great success that we've enjoyed.
What do you think has been the most effective on the marketing side for what you've been doing here?
It gets back to our core principles, which are transparency and communication. You don't want to take people's money and ghost them. I just think that's disingenuous. It sends the wrong message. When people are putting their hard earned money out there, they want to know that they're tethered to genuineness, honesty, and integrity. And I think we've established that, not just because we say it, but it's really evident in all the actions. And I keep coming back to that because that is so significant. I mean, even when we have put out bad news, but integrity mandates that you don't just put out all good news. Sometimes you got to put bad news out. And when we've done that, we've hit things proactively head on, and the love and just the acceptance of even in those moments of those items have all been positive. And in today's polarized world, Salvador, you don't expect to see that. And I can say that almost 100% of the time that's what we've experienced, and I think it's a testimonial to the investor group that we've been able to create, and I hope it's a testimonial to how we've given back and who we really are on our team too.
Very cool. Have you guys been doing like Facebook ads or anything like that?
We've done Facebook ads, and that has been a challenge, as you probably know, or maybe some of your listeners know. The pixel has changed between Apple and Facebook, and your opportunity to identify, your group that's checking out your ads and that are interested in your proposition. So that was debilitating, and I think it's hurt crowdfunding. I think in the last 2 months, crowdfunding revenues are down 50%. So you gotta be very agile. You have to be able to adapt to the marketplace and do things that can compensate for unforeseen hits like that. And I think we've been able to navigate around those. A lot of that is again due to the community we've built. And be able, when you have 4,000 like-minded people all rowing in unison, that's a lot of power. It's a lot of word of mouth, and it's really buoyed us through this time in crowdfunding.
Do you think that these people that are connecting with you, are they members of the WeFunder community? Are they part of your professional connections? Are they people who discover you randomly online? Where do you think people are really coming in contact with this?
I think we've enjoyed all what you just said. Now, on the WeFunder, I think we've enjoyed some of the WeFunder crowd, but I think WeFunder or any of the crowdfunding campaign platforms would be the first ones to tell you, don't go crowdfund with the idea that they're going to supply the investment for you, because that's really not the case. It kind of kill what you eat or eat what you kill kind of a mentality. You have to go out there and do the missionary work. You have to do the work. You can't just mail it in. You can't open up shop on a crowdfunding website and expect everything to be done for you, because that's not the reality. You got to be creative. You got to have the right message. You got to get to the right demographic. And we leveraged our professional networks. We leveraged Facebook advertising, LinkedIn. We engaged Travis Brodeen, who has coached us in a big way through this. We've come up with novel things. We do a thing called the Dan Show that we put out on a regular basis, which is a video talk show it's a short, we don't want to wear people out with some long, thing that they don't want to spend a lot of time watching. but it could be 8 to 15, 20 minutes, and it just hits all the high points for the last 2 weeks. And I think that kind of engagement has kept people really up to speed with what we're doing. We're not publicly traded, so in the absence of like a PR newswire or Bloomberg or something like that on a publicly traded company where you can readily see what's going on, there's a void out there. And I think it's important to fill that void. And that goes back to the integrity, to letting people know that they're tethered to a real company, that things are really happening. Nobody wants to throw money in and just have it disappear, and to that point, on our website, we have every day we have the stock share price in bright green at the top center of our website. We're not publicly traded, but we want people to know that they can always be grounded in knowing what their shares are worth that day. Additionally, we've come up with what we call a receipt certificate. It looks much like a stock certificate, and it shows, ownership name, date of purchase, number of shares, and we electronically send that to everybody to memorialize their purchase. We want them to know that we know that they have shares in our company. And I'm not sure if any other crowdfunding corporation is doing anything like that out there. But, those are the things that separate us from everyone else. And I can tell you, I've had tons of comments about the interaction and communication and just keeping people up to speed and how we've differentiated ourselves from virtually every other investment that our investing community has made. So I hold that in a lot of pride.
It sounds like you guys also got on a really interesting TD Ameritrade webinar here. Is that true?
I'm not sure which one you're talking about, Salvador, and I apologize on that.
Oh, no worries. Yeah, I was looking at some of your updates here, and it looked like you guys did a really interesting webinar with TD Ameritrade. We're just kind of looking at it's kind of cool.
Yeah, and I apologize. I'm drawing a blank on it. It could have been something different to me than TD Ameritrade, and maybe that's the name that was put on it after the fact. We have done a lot of that's part of our outreach.
So one of the things I wanted to talk with you about is in terms of your experience, as an entrepreneur and as a leader here. So you've been taking tons of action. Obviously, this has been manifesting for you. Is there anything that you'd like to pass on to the community of entrepreneurs in the way of final tip or advice for them getting started on a new business, or something that you think more people should be aware of? What would you tell them if you could speak directly to them?
As I said earlier, persistence pays. If you have an idea, don't just talk about it, act on it. Personal experience that I had being an entrepreneur all these years, what I've found is when one person has an idea, it's almost a rule that 10 other people have the same idea at the same time. And then there's the guy that executed on it and did it. And then there's the other guys that said, I had that same idea. I wish I would have done it. Don't be that guy. Be the guy that executes. Recognize that you are in a race. I had an idea for a new TV remote control years back. And by the time I got around to trying to get a patent on it, Sony had just beaten me by a month. I had an idea for a medical device. By the time I got around to getting a patent on it, General Motors had beaten me by 2 months. So one thing I noted through those negative experiences was that you're in a race. So when I had the idea for Drone Deck, I used that experience and I literally ran to the patent office. I filed immediately. I didn't go for a patent search. I didn't do a provisional patent. I called my attorney. I said, hey, I want to jump right in, do a full utility patent, and let's get this going. And then lo and behold, 3 years later, my patent issued, and it turned out I had beaten Amazon to my patent by 9 days, Postal Service by 2 weeks. So that just proved out what I had learned, that it really is a race of execution. This is America. That's where we're based. I don't know if this is an international audience, but what I would say is anything truly is possible. It doesn't cost a lot of money to get your idea rolling and try to get it made into reality. It really takes a commitment by you and the discipline to act on it. Don't put it off. Do it immediately. Don't go out and disclose your ideas publicly, even telling acquaintances or friends. If you have something that's really meaningful and could be protectable, you need to go talk to an attorney. You need to file for that immediately and then get the ball rolling on that and go out and execute on that.
Very cool, very cool. My final question for you here is, what are you thinking in terms of the future? Are you guys trying to build a big company and go IPO? Are you trying to sell this eventually to another corporation? What are you thinking there?
Salvador, I get that question every day. And the reality is, I want everybody to know we are not so laser focused on one item like a SPAC or an IPO that we miss the bigger thing right behind it. What I would say is we approach everything wide-eyed. We are exploring, in any opportunity that comes across that has any merit at all, we're going to explore it. If it has value for our shareholders, which is what we're trying to return, then it might be something that we enter into. Right now, we are developing until some compelling reason comes in and tells us not to. We are experiencing the biggest market opportunity in the world right now in front of us. And we know one thing: every day that we go down the road, we unlock more intrinsic value in this company. And so that's why we're strategically raising the way we are. We didn't want to go out to VC or private equity and give up a big chunk at what we feel is a big discount to our real value right now. We want to methodically unlock that, and that's how we know we deliver great value to our shareholders.
Awesome. And where can people go to learn more about you online?
You can go to dronedek.com. That's DRONEDEK.com. You can email me personally, Dan@dronedek.com. I welcome phone calls, 317-694-7520. I will say that we're concluding our WeFunder campaign prior to the release of this. So we do have a separate seed series round that will be continuing on. And if anybody has any interest in that, I'd love to hear from you. And just want to thank you for the opportunity to tell our story, Salvador.
Definitely. Thanks for coming on, Dan. Congratulations on your success and good luck with your next 2 days here.
Sounds great, man. Really appreciate it. Looking forward to seeing you on the other side, man.
Hey, thank you for listening to this episode of the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast. Again, my name is Salvador Brigman. Hope you took a lot of value out of today's episode. I try to always have on interesting guests onto this podcast, and we really have a bunch of different types of verticals or categories or industries, whatever you want to phrase it as. In corporate speak, we might say like sectors of industries, right? But I think it's so important because not only is it good because you can see your own product be successful. You can obviously go back into the archives of the show on iTunes or on Spotify at crowdcrux.com/iTunes. Or if you listen to this on YouTube, you can obviously go back into my YouTube channel. And I think it's so important because you are able to see people who are just like you and hear those stories be successful using crowdfunding. And that's really the whole goal with this show. But kind of on the flip side as well, I think it's so important because this is really how creativity happens. Creativity happens from cross-pollination of ideas, cross-pollination of industries. And the more you can listen to other people be successful, even if it's not necessarily with the same type of startup or the same type of business or the same type of product or service that you have, the more likely you are to get that hamster wheel in your head moving and you get those ideas and you just start to get some energy, start to get excited. And that's the name of the game. You want to stay around those sources that get you excited, okay? But if you're like, okay, I am super excited now, like I know that I want to do one of these things, I still just don't know exactly the step-by-step as to how to pull off one of these equity crowdfunding campaigns. Well, first of all, go and check out my course, my free course for you at crowdcrux.com/equity. That's crowdcrux.com/equity, crowdcrux.com/equity. And also you got to check out the book I have for you called Equity Crowdfunding Explained. And you can listen to the audiobook. You can listen to me turn a really dull subject like I love to do into something more fun and interesting for you. You can go to crowdcrux.com/equity audio, crowdcrux.com/equity audio, crowdcrux.com/equity audio. Just go to that link. You can download the Audible version. I also think you can get for free if you get a free 30-day trial of Audible. But don't quote me on that. I believe they were doing that promotion. I think last month when I was looking at it, might still be happening or not. But that being said, like my whole idea when I started this show and also with my YouTube channel and my books, my blog, is to try to make complex subjects interesting, easy to understand, and to kind of introduce you to vocabulary that a lot of these people use to mask or to confuse you. And I think it's so important because as an entrepreneur, as a business person, like your specialty is knowing how to create something that other people and knowing how to assemble a team around you or learning those skills, being freaking willing to learn, push forward. You think about like Ernest Shackleton and going exploring, I think it was Antarctica. Might have been, I think it was Antarctica. You might have to correct me on that one. But going and exploring the really cold and frigid terrain and being able to convince other people to join him on that expedition, to chart the course, to have the right supplies, to be a leader, the cool thing about this process of being a creator, being an entrepreneur, being a, whatever you want to call it, a business person, the cool thing about this is that it brings out the best parts of you. It forces you to be a leader. It forces you to meet deadlines. It forces you to stick by your word, my friends, and to do the things that really freaking inspire you. And I know that whatever that thing is, it's always going to be on the other side of fear, on the other side of uncertainty. And I'm here to just kind of share with you a little bit, I guess, of a light or of other people who have gone on that other side and have seen success, and hopefully just encourage you and hopefully share with you some stuff that you don't know so that you can go out there and you can do the exact same thing. You can absolutely smash your goal when it comes to crowdfunding. Thank you so much for listening. Go and rate me on iTunes if you can. It would mean a lot to me. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.